Bonjour tout le monde, je m'appelle Shraddha et je suis professeur de français à G.D.Goenka Public School, Indirapuram. Good morning everyone, my name is Shraddha and I am French teacher at G.D.Goenka Public School, Indirapuram. Today we are going to learn the conjugation of French verbs, the ER ending verbs. Let's start. So before we begin with the conjugation of the verbs ER, let's understand what are the different types of verbs in French language. In French, the verbs are divided into three categories. Les trois catégories. La première, c'est le group 1. Group 1 comprises group 1, group 2, and group 3. Group 1 comprises of les verbes ER or the ER ending verbs. They are all regular verbs. For example, parler, to speak, chanter, to sing. Now, what do I mean by regular verbs? Regular means that all the verbs which are put into this category, this particular group, they will follow the same rule of conjugation. They are not irregular. They do not have separate or different conjugations. And how do you identify that a verb belongs to one particular group? Well, you can look at the verbs. The highlighted part in red, parler, has ER at the end. So the ending is what defines the verb group. So here parler has ER at the end. So it is put into group 1. Similarly, you'll have many more verbs which can be put into this particular group. Then we have group 2, which has les verbes IR or ER, as we say in French. These are again regular verbs. Examples, finir, to finish, remplir, to fill. How do you identify? Just by looking at the endings. IR at the end. Then we have the third group, and it is the most notorious group. It has the regular verbs, which are the verbs RE, the verb RE, which are again regular verbs. Some of them are vendre, to sell, répondre, to respond. They are regular because they follow the same rule of conjugation. But there are verbs in French which do not have the same pattern of conjugation. These are called irregular verbs, les verbes irréguliers. These can belong to any category. They can have ER at the end. They can have IR at the end. They can have RE at the end. They can have OIR at the end. And what makes them irregular is that they do not follow the same pattern. They have their own rules of conjugation. So there are no two same verbs which are conjugated in the same way in irregular verbs. Now, our topic for today is the ER ending verbs, and we'll see how to conjugate those verbs. First, let's see some of the ER ending verbs, some examples of the ER ending verb. Now, this is the majority, this group, the first group, ER verbs, comprises of 90% of the French verbs. Maximum number of verbs, the action words in French belong to this particular category. Some of the examples of the commonly used ER ending verbs are danser, to dance, chanter, to sing, parler, which means to speak, compter, to count, habiter, to stay or to live, aimer, to like or to love. For example, j'aime le chocolat. Je t'aime, I love you, I like you. Adorer, to like a lot. Détester, to hate or to dislike. Préférer, to prefer. Travailler, to work. Manger, to eat. Now, the verb, any verb has two parts. It can have an infinitive form, two forms rather. It can have an infinitive form and a conjugated form. What do I mean by infinitive form? For example, let's take the verb danser. To dance, you have the same concept in English as well. You say danser, it means to dance. And then we have the conjugated form. What do I mean by conjugated form is that you do not speak. When we use it with subjects, we do not say I to dance, you to dance. We say I dance, he dances, she dances. Similarly, in French also, you have the conjugated form, or as we say, the subject-verb agreement. For example, danser, the infinitive becomes je danse, tu danses, etc. And an infinitive is made up of two parts. First part is called the stem or the radical, and a root. So the ER part that you see at the end, that's the root. And rest part, the which is put before ER, is called the stem or the radical. Now, let's learn the conjugation of ER ending verbs in a very, very fun way. Let's assume that we are trying to plant a tree here in a little pot. So let's assume that we have taken a verb called parler. We plant the infinitive. We take up a pot and we plant the infinitive in it. Now, a plant, an infinitive, has two parts, as I just explained to you, a stem part and a root part. Now, we cut off the root. We cut off the ER. That's our step one. We cut off the ER and we get the stem. So what do we get if we remove ER from here? We get parle. We get parle. Okay. Now comes the next step. Now I have got this. I have got my stem. Now what do I do with this? Now I have to conjugate it with different subjects, with different people. So what is the first person? And for that, let's take it in a fun way, that become a person. Let's say the first person. First person is I, always, like in English also we have I. In French, I is called je. So here comes our first B, je. And this B comes and sit on a special petal in this flower, and it is E. So what do I do with this? I take my stem. First take my B, then I take my stem, and then I add this special petal, and I get my conjugation, which is je parle. I added this E to my stem and I get je parle, which means I speak or I am speaking. Parler means to speak. So if I want to say I speak, I would conjugate it as je parle with an E at the end, the special petal. Then after I comes you. In French, you is called tu. So here comes our second B, who will again sit on a special petal. And the special petal has a special word at the end, which is es or es in French. So again, I would take my B, tu. I would take my stem, parle, and I would add es to that, and I would get my conjugation, tu parle with an es. Tu parle. You speak or you are speaking. Then we have the third person, or the third singular person, which can be he or she. And in French, we call it il is he and elle is she. This B comes and sits on a special petal, which again has E at the end. So again, I would take my B, il, I would take my stem, parle, and add the special ending, which is E, and I get il parle, he speaks or he is speaking, or elle parle, she speaks or she is speaking. Then the B start coming in plural. Now we have our plural subject pronoun also. The plural first person plural, which is we. In French, it is called nous. We is called nous. So these we, they come on their special petal. And the special petal has the ending ons. So I take with the B, nous. I take the stem, parle, and I add ons. So I get nous parlons. Nous parlons. We speak or we are speaking. Then comes the second person plural. In English, you call it you only, but in French, you have a different name for that. It is not tu, it is called vous. It is just like in Hindi, we have tum and aap. So we have aap or vous or you plural, and they come and sit on their special petal, which is called ez. So I would take vous. I would take my stem parle and I would add ez, vous parlez, you speak or you are speaking. Then the last person is called they in English, and in French it is two, ils or elle, plural, and they come and sit on their special petal, which is called ent, and they. So il parle, ent, and we pronounce it as il parle. The ent at the end is not pronounced. Il parle, elle parle. They speak or they are speaking. And hence, we get the conjugation. Now, you have learned how to conjugate one verb. Similarly, all the verbs, no matter which ER ending verb you get, you can conjugate it in the same way. All you need to do is you take the infinitive, you cut off the ER, and you add the special endings with every subject pronoun. So I hope you will not face any difficulty in conjugating the ER verbs now. Thank you.